Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Raven's Readings. This is Chapter 8 of The Inimitable Jeeves by P.G. Wodehouse. I'll be reading from this book on Tuesdays and my own stories on Fridays. In the last chapter, Bertie promised his Aunt Agatha that he would make a good impression on Honoria Glossop's father. Let's see how he does at their luncheon together. If you subscribe to my newsletter, you'll get notified of my updates as soon as they're ready. If you enjoyed this reading, or have other classics you'd like to hear, leave me a comment. Chapter 8. Sir Roderick Comes to Lunch. I had met Sir Roderick Glossop before, of course, but only when I was out with Honoria, and there's something about Honoria which makes almost anybody you meet in the same room seem sort of undersized and trivial by comparison. I had never realized till this moment what an extraordinary, formidable old bird he was. He had a pair of shaggy eyebrows which gave his eyes a piercing look, which was not at all the sort of thing a fellow wanted to encounter on an empty stomach. He was fairly tall and fairly broad, and he had the most enormous head with practically no hair on it, which made it seem even bigger and much more like the dome of St. Paul's. I suppose he must have taken about a 9 or something in hats. Shows what a rotten thing it is to let your brain develop too much. What-oh, I said, trying to strike the genial note, and then had a sudden feeling that this was just the sort of thing I had been warned not to say. Dashed difficult it is to start things going properly on an occasion like this. A fellow living in a London flat is so handicapped. I mean to say, if I had been the young squire greeting the visitor in the country, I could have said, "Welcome to Meadowsweet Hall," or something zippy like that. It sounds silly to say, "Welcome to number 6A, Crichton Mansions, Berkeley Street, West." "I'm afraid I'm a little late," he said as we sat down. "I was detained at my club by Lord Alistair Hungerford, the Duke of Ramfurline's son. His Grace, he informed me, had exhibited a renewal of the symptoms which have been causing the family so much concern. I could not leave him immediately, hence my unpunctuality, which I trust has not discommoded you." Oh, not at all. So the Duke is off his rocker, what?" Sir Roderick frowned. "The expression which you use is not precisely one I should have employed myself with reference to the head of perhaps the noblest family in London. But there is no doubt that cerebral excitement does, as you suggest, exist in no small degree." He sighed as well as he could with his mouthful of cutlet. "A profession like mine is a great strain, a great strain." "Oh, must be," I said. "Sometimes I am appalled at what I see around me." He stopped suddenly and sort of stiffened. "Do you keep a cat, Mr. Wooster?" "Eh? What? Cat? No cat." I was conscious of a distinct impression that I heard a cat mewing either in the room or very near to where we are sitting. "Oh, probably a taxi or something in the street." "I fear I do not follow you," he said. "Well, I mean to say, taxis squawk, rather like cats in a sort of way." I had not observed the resemblance, he said, rather coldly. "Have some lemon squash," I said. The conversation seemed to be getting rather difficult. "Thank you. Half a glassful, if I may." The hell brew appeared to buck him up, for he resumed in a slightly more pally manner. "I have a particular dislike for cats, but as I was saying, oh yes, sometimes I am positively appalled at what I see around me. It is not only the cases which come under my professional notice, painful as many of those are, it is what I see as I go about London. Sometimes it seems to me that the whole world is mentally imbalanced. This very morning, for example, a most singular and distressing occurrence took place as I was driving from my house to the club. The day being clement, I had instructed my chauffeur to open my landaulet, and I was leaning back, deriving no little pleasure from the sunshine, when our progress was arrested in the middle of the thoroughfare by one of those blocks in the traffic which are inevitable in so congested a system as that of London. I suppose I had been letting my mind wander a bit, for when he stopped and took a sip of lemon squash, I had the feeling that I was listening to a lecture and was expected to say something. Here, I said. "I beg your pardon." "Oh, nothing. You were saying?" The vehicles proceeding in the opposite direction had also been temporarily arrested, and after a moment they were permitted to proceed. I had fallen into a meditation when suddenly the most extraordinary thing took place. My hat was snatched abruptly from my head, and as I looked back, I perceived it being waved in a kind of feverish triumph from the interior of a taxicab, which, even as I looked, disappeared through a gap in the traffic and was lost to sight. I didn't laugh, but I distinctly heard a couple of my floating ribs part from their moorings under the strain. "Must have been meant for a practical joke," I said. "What?" This suggestion didn't seem to please the old boy. "I trust," he said, "I am not deficient in an appreciation of a humorist, but I confess that I am at a loss to detect anything akin to pleasantry in the outrage. The action was beyond all question that of a mentally unbalanced subject. These mental lesions may express themselves in almost any form. The Duke of Ranfurline, to whom I had occasion to allude just now, is under the impression, this is in the strictest confidence, that he is a canary, and his seizure today, which so perturbed Lord Alistair, was due to the fact that a careless footman had neglected to bring him his morning lump of sugar. Cases are common again of men waylaying women and cutting off portions of their hair. It is from a branch of this latter form of mania that I should be disposed to imagine that my assailant was suffering. I can only trust that he will be placed under proper control before he— Mr. Wooster, there is a cat close at hand. It is not in the street. The mewing appears to come from an adjoining room." This time I had to admit there was no about it. There was a distinct sound of mewing coming from the next room. I punched the bell for Jeeves, who drifted in and stood waiting with an air of respectful devotion. "Sir?" "Oh, Jeeves," I said, "cats. What about it? Are there any cats in the flat?" "Only the 3 in your bedroom, sir." "What?" "Cats in the bedroom?" I heard Sir Roderick whisper in a kind of stricken way, and his eyes hit me amidships like a couple of bullets. "What do you mean?" I said. "Only the 3 in my bedroom?" "The black one, the tabby, and the small lemon-colored animals, sir." "What on earth?" I charged round the table in the direction of the door. Unfortunately, Sir Roderick had just decided to edge in that direction himself, with the result that we collided in the doorway with a good deal of force and staggered out into the hall together. He came smartly out of the clinch and grabbed an umbrella from the rack. "Stand back!" he shouted, waving it overhead. "Stand back, sir! I am armed!" It seemed to me that the moment had come to be soothing. "Awfully sorry I barged into you," I said. "It wouldn't have had it happen for worlds. I was just dashing out to have a look into things." He appeared a trifle reassured, and lowered the umbrella. But just then the most frightful shindy started in the bedroom. It sounded as though all the cats in London, assisted by delegates from outlying suburbs, had got together to settle their differences once and for all. A sort of augmented orchestra of cats. "This noise is unendurable," yelled Sir Roderick. "I cannot hear myself speak." "I fancy, sir," said Jeeves respectfully, "that the animals may have become somewhat exhilarated as the result of having discovered the fish under Mr. Wooster's bed." The old boy tottered. "Fish? Did I hear you rightly?" "Sir?" "Did you say that there was a fish under Mr. Wooster's bed?" "Yes, sir." Sir Roderick gave a low moan and reached for his hat and stick. "You aren't going," I said. "Mr. Wooster, I am going. I prefer to spend my leisure time in less eccentric society." "But I say, here, I must come with you. I'm sure the whole business can be explained. Jeeves, my hat." Jeeves rallied round. I took my hat from him and shoved it on my head. And good heavens, beastly shock it was. The bally thing had absolutely engulfed me, if you know what I mean. Even as I was putting it on, I got a sort of impression that it was a trifle roomy, and no sooner had I let go of it than it settled down over my ears like a kind of extinguisher. "I say, this isn't my hat." "It is my hat," said Sir Roderick in about the coldest, nastiest voice I'd ever heard. "The hat which was stolen from me this morning as I drove in my car. But I suppose Napoleon or somebody like that would have been equal to the situation, but I'm bound to say it was just too much for me. I just stood there goggling in a sort of coma while the old boy lifted the hat off me and turned to Jeeves. "I should be glad, my man," he said, "if you would accompany me a few yards down the street. I wish to ask you some questions." "Very good, sir." Here, but I say," I began, but he left me standing. He stalked out, followed by Jeeves, and at that moment the row in the bedroom started again, louder than ever. I was about fed up with the whole thing. I mean, cats in your bedroom, a bit thick, what? I didn't know how the dickens they had got in, but I was jolly well resolved that they weren't going to stay picnicking there any longer. I flung open the door and got a momentary flash of about 115 cats of all sizes and colors scrapping in the middle of the room, and then they all shot past me with a rush and out the front door, and all that was left of the mob scene was the head of a whacking big fish lying in the carpet and staring up at me in a rather austere sort of way, as if it wanted a written explanation and an apology. There was something about the thing's expression that absolutely chilled me, and I withdrew on tiptoe and shut the door, and as I did so, I bumped into someone. "Oh, sorry," he said. I spun around. It was the pink-faced chappie, Lord something or other, the fellow I had met with Claude and Eustace. "I say," he said apologetically, "awfully sorry to bother you, but those weren't my cats I met just now lugging it downstairs, were they? They looked like my cats." "They came out of my bedroom," I said. "Oh, then they were my cats," he said sadly. "Oh, dash it. Did you put cats in my bedroom?" "Well, your man, what's his name, did. He rather decently said I could keep them there till my train went. I just come to fetch them, and now they're gone. Oh, well, it can't be helped. I'll take the hat and the fish anyway." I was beginning to dislike this chappie. "Did you put that bally fish in there, too?" "Oh, no, that was Eustace's. The hat was Claude's." I sank limply into a chair. "I say, you couldn't explain this, could you?" I said. The chappie gazed at me in mild surprise. "Why, don't you know all about it?" I say. "Oh," he blushed profusely. "Why, if you don't know about it, I shouldn't wonder if the whole thing didn't seem rummy to you." "Rummy is the word," I said. "It was the Seekers, you know." "The Seekers?" "Rather a blood club, you know, up at Oxford, which your cousins and I are rather keen on getting into. You have to pinch something, you know, to get elected. Some sort of a souvenir, you know. A policeman's helmet, you know, or a door knocker or something, you know. The room's decorated with the things at the annual dinner, and everybody makes speeches and all that sort of thing. Rather jolly." "Well, we wanted rather to make a sort of special effort and do the thing in style, if you understand, so we came up to London to see if we couldn't pick up something here that would be a bit out of the ordinary, and we had the most amazing luck right from the start. Your cousin Claude managed to collect a quite decent top hat out of a passing car, and your cousin Eustace got away with a really goodish salmon or something from Harrods, and I snaffled 3 excellent cats all in the first hour. We were fearfully braced, I can tell you, and then the difficulty was to know where to park the things till our train went. You look so beastly conspicuous, you know, tooling about London with a fish and a lot of cats. And then Eustace remembered you, and we all came on here in a cab. You were out, but your man said it would be all right. When we met you, you were in such a hurry that we hadn't time to explain. Well, I think I'll be taking the hat, if you don't mind. It's gone." "Gone?" "The fellow you pinched it from happened to be the man who was lunching here. He took it away with him." "Oh, I say, poor old Claude will be upset. Well, how about the goodish salmon or something?" "Would you care to view the remains?" He seemed all broken up when he saw the wreckage. "Oh, I doubt if the committee would accept that," he said sadly. "There isn't a frightful lot of it left, what? The cats ate the rest." He sighed deeply. "No cats, no fish, no hat. We've had all our trouble for nothing. I do call that hard. And on top of that, I say, I hate to ask you, but you couldn't lend me a tenner, could you?" "A tenner? What for?" "Well, the fact is I've got to pop round and bail Claude and Eustace out. They've been arrested." "Arrested?" "Yes. You see, what with the excitement of collaring the hat and the salmon or something, added to the fact that we had rather a festive lunch, they got a bit above themselves, poor chaps, and tried to pinch a motor lorry. Silly, of course, because I don't see how they could have got the thing to Oxford and shown it to the committee. Still, there wasn't any reasoning with them, and when the driver started making a fuss, there was a bit of a mix-up, and Claude and Eustace are more or less languishing in Vine Street Police Station till I pop round and bail them out. So if you could manage a tenner... Oh, thanks, that's fearfully good of you. It would have been too bad to leave them there, what? I mean, they're both such frightfully good chaps, you know. Everybody likes them up at the varsity. They're fearfully popular. I bet they are, I said. When Jeeves came back, I was waiting for him on the mat. I wanted speech with the blighter. Well, I said, Sir Roderick asked me a number of questions, sir, respecting your habits and mode of life, to which I replied guardedly, I don't care about that. What I want to know is why you didn't explain the whole thing to him right at the start. A word from you would have put everything clear. Yes, sir. Now he's gone off thinking me a loony. I should not be surprised from his conversation with me, sir, if some such idea had not entered his head. I was just starting to speak when the telephone bell rang. Jeeves answered it. No, madame, Mr. Wooster is not in. No, madame, I do not know when he will return. No, madame, he left no message. Yes, madame, I will inform him. He put back the receiver. Mrs. Gregson, sir. Aunt Agatha, I have been expecting it. Ever since the luncheon party had blown out a fuse, her shadow had been hanging over me, so to speak. Does she know already? I gather that Sir Roderick has been speaking to her on the telephone, sir, and... No wedding bells for me, what? Jeeves coughed. Mrs. Gregson did not actually confide in me, sir, but I fancy that some such thing may have occurred. She seemed decidedly agitated, sir. It's a rummy thing, but I've been so snootered by the old boy and the cats and the fish and the hat and the pink-faced chappie and all the rest of it that the bright side simply hadn't occurred to me till now. By Jove, it was like a bally weight rolled off my chest. I gave a yelp of pure relief. Jeeves, I said, I believe you worked the whole thing. Sir? I believe you had the jolly old situation in hand right from the start. Well, sir, Spencer, Mrs. Gregson's butler, who inadvertently chanced to overhear something of your conversation when you were lunching at the house, did mention certain of the details to me, and I confess that, though it may have been a liberty to say so, I entertained hopes that something might occur to prevent the match. I doubt if the young lady was entirely suitable to you, sir. Well, and she would have shot you out on your ear 5 minutes after the ceremony. Yes, sir. Spencer informed me that she had expressed some such intention. Mrs. Gregson wishes you to call upon her immediately, sir. She does, eh? What would you advise, Jeeves? I think a trip abroad might prove enjoyable, sir. I shook my head. She'd come after me. Not if you went far enough afield, sir. There are excellent boats leaving every Wednesday and Saturday for New York. Jeeves, I said, you are right as always. Book the tickets. The end. Well, it seems this luncheon was a disaster for some and a triumph for others. Next Tuesday I'll do another of this series. Bertie and Jeeves are off to the U.S. Stay tuned for Chapter 9, A Letter of Introduction. If you've subscribed to my newsletter, you'll get notified of my updates as soon as they're ready. If you enjoyed this reading or have other classics you'd like to hear, leave me a comment. And check out my other posts on my Substack at ravensview.substack.com. And remember, share this with your friends. Ta-ta for now.